How Walmart became the world's largest company. On July 2, 1962, the first Walmart store in the world opened its doors in Rogers, Arkansas. Sam Walton, the man who founded Walmart, had been a store for more than 20 years at this point in his life. In 1940, he began his career as a manager trainee in a JCPN.Q store in Iowa. To a large extent, Penney's emphasis on maximizing the value of a customer's visit explains Walton's lifetime fascination with improving the experiences in his own stores through research and observation. 5 years later, Walton borrowed $20,000 from his father-in-law to buy his first business, a Newport, Arkansas Ben Franklin 5 and dime. Walton learned along the road that lower prices and effective in-store marketing strategies can make a world of difference in the very competitive retail sector by taking the unprofitable Ben Franklin and turning it into the company's biggest success in Arkansas. After losing his lease on the initial store in 1951, Walton was forced to relocate to a different Ben Franklin. The Walton 5 and 10 was given to this one, and ever since it was built in Bentonville, the current location of Walmart's corporate headquarters, it has influenced the retailer's attention to small-town communities. It now functions as a corporate museum for Wal-Mart. By 1962, Walton had grown to be the biggest franchisee of Ben Franklin, operating 16 locations throughout Kansas, Arkansas, and Missouri. His small-town clientele would benefit more from a larger store presence at this point, so the first Walmart opened in Rogers with twice the space of his initial 5 and 10. In his autobiography, Walton himself provided the following description of his initial store. The store was only 1,200 square feet and had an 8-foot ceiling and a concrete floor with bare-boned wooden plank fixtures. Sterling had a huge variety store in downtown Harrison, with tile on the floor, nice lights, really good fixtures, and good presentations. Ours was just barely put together, highly promotional, truly ugly, heavy with merchandise, but for 20% less than the competition. We were trying to find out if customers in a town of 6,000 people would come to our kind of a barn and buy the same merchandise, strictly because of price. The answer was yes. Walmart was one of 3 massive discount retailers that started up that year. The first Target debuted in Minnesota in May, and the first Mart opened its doors in March. Walmart expanded swiftly. In just 5 years, it had grown to 24 locations, generating combined revenues of $13 million. But because both of Walmart's significant bargain rivals were at first new brands of well-known stores, it got off to quicker starts. In 1967, the parent company of Target went public with yearly revenues that were nearly 20 times higher than those of Walmart, and by that time, Mart, which is now a division of Sears Holdings, had opened 10 times as many stores as Walmart. Walmart, though, was only getting started. Walmart had grown to 38 stores by 1970 and was doing over $44 million in yearly sales, but further growth was difficult due to rising debts. That autumn, Walton took the business public while maintaining 61% ownership and raising enough money to grow to 51 locations in the following 2 years. Over the previous 50 years, these shares have turned out to be among the best purchases anyone could have ever made. Without factoring in dividends that have been reinvested, the value of Walmart shares since their debut has increased by more than 900,000%. America first became aware of Walmart in the 1980s. The business had 276 locations, 21,000 employees, and $1 billion in yearly revenues by the end of the 1970s, which was a record-breaking 17 years for a business. The first Sam's Club, a large supercenter named after Walmart's founder, debuted in 1983. The warehouse club retail era began in that year, just as discount retailing did in 1962. Costco also opened its first location in 1983. Later, by merging with Price Club, a warehouse chain that Sam Walton had hoped to incorporate into his own business empire, Costco undermined Walton's efforts to expand in that market. Even after this setback, Walmart continued operating unabated. With a $3 billion fortune, Walton was the richest individual in the country by 1985. Walton was so offended by the newspaper portrayal of him that he wrote in his memoirs that it made him feel like a really cheap, eccentric recluse, sort of a hillbilly, who more or less slept with his dogs in spite of having billions of dollars stashed away in a cave. By the end of the decade, Walmart had finally surpassed Mart as the most profitable store in the country and had become the first retailer to record after-tax earnings of over $1 billion. In 26 states, Walmart had over 1,400 locations by the end of the 1980s. In 1991, Walmart started to grow internationally, but the following year, Sam Walton passed away from bone cancer, leaving his enormous fortune to a number of successors. Since then, the combined wealth of those heirs has risen to $110 billion, prompting media criticism over the fact that one family now controls as much money as the poorest 40% of American families, or around 49 million homes. To make as much money as the Walton heirs, the typical hourly Walmart employee would have to work for 7 million years. Despite losing its founder, Walmart kept expanding quickly. The business experienced its first ever week of $1 billion in corporate sales a year after Walton's passing. By 1997, when the company's dominance among American merchants earned it a seat on the Dow Jones Industrial Average, sales had doubled to nearly $100 billion. After Sears left the Dow 2 years later, Walmart became the sole consumer retail business, and it has remained such ever since. In 2002, Walmart, with $220 billion in yearly sales, overtook General Motors as the largest firm in America by revenue. Walmart increased its annual income by double over the ensuing 10 years, and it appears that it may soon become the first firm in American history to achieve annual sales of $500 billion. That's it for today's video. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel for future updates.